Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and you can tell by the title, this one might upset some people. I have some questions about the Toronto Raptors and about Pascal Siakam specifically. This is a player that had a really, really good start to the year last year. You look like an All-NBA caliber guy, like a guaranteed All-NBA guy moving forward. And at that point, we were having the conversation about Siakam. What is he going to look like without Kawhi? Then he starts the year really well. He signs the big extension. He's a max contract player. And then the conversation's just over. Like, okay, Pascal Siakam is good. He's a really, really good player. I'm willing to call that into question at the moment. He had that really strong start to the year, but didn't necessarily sustain it, especially shooting-wise. There were some issues for Siakam throughout the season. And there's, you can get into little intricacies about the Raptors season and about his game and whatever the case may be, whether it be, nagging injuries or whatever. The point is, start of the year is really good, and that kind of tailed off throughout the year to the point where I think it's worth calling into question if he is an All-NBA caliber guy, if he is a max contract level player, especially now in a Raptors team that increasingly is going to be depending on him even more than they ever have here moving forward. So the other thing to kind of talk about with Siakam in terms of is he a really good player is the playoffs are a huge differentiator for a lot of players. And the Raptors have experienced this specifically back when Lowry and DeRozan used to really struggle in the postseason. There's a lot of players around the league that can put up numbers, they can look good in the regular season, and then once they get to the playoffs, they just don't have it. And if you're paying a guy a max, or if you have an All-NBA caliber player in your roster, the expectation is you're really good in the regular season, and you're also really good in the postseason. And the playoffs last season for Pascal Siakam were nothing short of a disaster. Now, you can make all the excuses that you want to about, the circumstances of the playoffs last year and all that, but that doesn't change what the numbers say. He wasn't good in either series, and specifically the shooting was awful. Here's a couple of shooting nights from him just from the second round of the playoffs last year against Boston. He went 5 for 19, 5 for 12, 6 for 15, 6 for 16, 9 for 22, and 4 for 13 from the field. So in 6 of the 7 games in the series, Siakam was simply not good scoring the ball from the floor. And obviously, there's more to the game than just being efficient and just being a scorer. But again, when you're supposed to be an All-NBA caliber guy, when you're supposed to be a max contract level player, the expectations are pretty high when it comes to offense and when it comes to efficiency. And the year before the postseason, he had some good moments with Kawhi there. Specifically, game 1 of the finals, was really good. It was like 14 for 17 from the field or something. But then, as you look throughout the game log from last year's playoffs, or from the 2019 playoffs as well, there are some more, really, really bad shooting nights in the postseason. And so now I guess my question is Pascal Siakam really this guy that's going to be able to borderline carry an offense, or is he what he was in that 2019 postseason run where they ended up winning the title? And that is a really good high energy player whose offensive game is limited to attacking closeouts, knocking down an occasional outside jumper, and working off of what everybody else does with some occasional post stuff, some occasional, ball screen stuff as a roller and as a ball handler, and an okay passer. There's a big difference between those two things, and there's a big difference between the contract value of those two kinds of players. And I'm not giving a definitive statement here one way or the other. I'm just asking the question. I'm just wondering, hey, did we evaluate and did we assume some things about Pascal Siakam way too quickly? And so some things that I call into question for him are, is he someone that you can run an offense through? And again, when you're considering the max contract, all NBA stuff, you would hope that you would be able to. He's not a great isolation player. He's not a player that's going to create a ton of stuff on the perimeter. He can create some stuff, but individually by himself, whether it be ball screen or otherwise, not going to be able to create a ton. And he's a good but not great passer. When you look at the assist to turnover stuff, when you watch him play, it's clear that he's relatively limited in that capacity as well. And again, it goes back to, is he just kind of what he was when Toronto won the title, which to be clear, was a very, very good player and is still a very good player. I'm not trying to say that Pascal Siakam is bad. I'm just saying, is he all NBA level good? And you might be sitting here thinking, well, does it really matter if he's necessarily all NBA caliber good? He's still a really good player, still a player you had to retain, still a player that likely was going to require a max contract anyway. And maybe you're right. But as you're looking at, this Raptors roster as a whole, and kind of how this season has started, which has been not well, they're going to be increasingly reliant on Pascal Siakam throughout the season and moving forward, because Kyle Lowry is now in his mid-30s, and he's a guy that they've relied on a ton over the last few years. I mean, like, the minutes that Kyle Lowry's been playing at his age are kind of ridiculous, especially as a smaller guard. And at some point, he's going to slow down or, worst case, unfortunately, turn his ankle or have some kind of significant injury because of how much they've relied on him. And again, they're going to rely more and more on guys like Siakam and Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby, with Siakam being the number one guy in that hierarchy, right? And if he's not going to be able to be the primary guy offensively, then who is on this roster? It kind of has to be Siakam when you're looking at the contract stuff, when you're looking at the responsibility on this roster. It really can't be anybody else other than Pascal Siakam. As good as VanVleet and OG Anunoby are, it's clear that Siakam is the guy that they're going to be relying on. And I promise that this is not like an overreaction to the first handful of games of the year. There are signs of some of the points that I've been making here, later into last year and in the postseason as well, and to begin this season. And, there's been a bit of a history of this here in Toronto where players are really, really good, but then they don't perform in the postseason. And that's been largely remedied since Nick Nurse has gotten there. And of course, they won the title, and Nick Nurse is a great coach. But it's worth wondering if maybe it's a bit of a coaching thing where he is maybe accounting for a little bit more of the Siakam good stuff than Siakam is himself, just because of how good a coach Nick Nurse is. And again, Siakam's not a bad player. I just don't know about him sometimes. Like, I don't know if he has all the stuff you need to be a really, really good player. And that's fine because of where he came. He was like the 27th pick in the draft, right? And nobody really had high expectations for this guy. And I remember the first time I watched him, on Toronto, it was just this crazy energy rebounding guy. And I was like, oh, okay, this guy's interesting. But my expectations were incredibly low for him as an offensive player. And he has improved significantly as an offensive player. And he's still, 26 years old? So there's still some improvement to be had here, I'm sure. But in the current sense for Toronto, in terms of how much they're going to be relying on him and how much he's actually going to be able to provide for them, I think it's worth wondering if in that capacity, Pascal Siakam is good. Now, of course, I'm interested to see what you guys have to say down in the comment section below, as always, about what you think about Pascal Siakam. Is he someone that you think can carry a team? Is he someone that you think that if Kyle Lowry goes out this year, Siakam can still get this team in the playoffs? Or are they a sprained ankle away from Kyle Lowry, or a significant injury away from Kyle Lowry from being a team that doesn't even make the postseason this year? And again, I know it's only been a few games, but I think those are all things worth asking about Toronto and about the Raptors. Now, I know that maybe some Raptors fans aren't the biggest fan of me from some things that I've said in the past, but this, I promise, I'm not being biased in any way. This is a real observation. This is a real question mark that I have about Siakam himself, and I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. If this is something that you're seeing, whether you're Raptors fans or otherwise, if this is something that maybe I'm overreacting to a little bit, or if this is a real thing and you think that, long term, Siakam's not a max guy. He's not, that high level of an all NBA guy. I'm just interested to see what you guys have to say. This is more just me kind of rolling around this idea than being 100% certain about whether or not Pascal Siakam's good. So we're going to keep an eye on this one for the rest of the year. But that is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. I upload twice a day, every day, all throughout the NBA season. So it's a great place for consistent NBA content. If that is something that you're looking for, you can also leave a like rating on the video as well. It helps me out a ton, lets me know that you're enjoying the content, and helps it get out to more people on YouTube as well. And you can check me out at various socials at the bottom of the screen. They're in a link tree down in the description below. With all those things said, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.